Okay, you guys, this is round 2. Let's hope this works. Crossing fingers. Hello, my name is Gott Warner, and I want to welcome you to the live video edition of Power Purls podcast. So today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that are going to be happening in the Power Purls garden, and you'll also get a chance to pose questions for an upcoming guest who will be Amy Christoffers, who is the design director of Berroco Yarn. And you can ask her questions about the design process, what it takes to put together a collection every season. So that's going to be something that I want you guys to be thinking about. So you can put your thinking caps on and start to post those in the comments. And then I will gather all these amazing questions from you guys so I can ask them live on air when I have my interview with Amy in a few weeks. So that's a new thing that I'd like to do, and it was an idea that was actually suggested, or I actually asked one of my patrons, one of my supporters of the podcast, Melanie Fiedler. And yesterday, I actually had an interview with Trisha Malcolm. Now, this would have been really perfect if I asked her some really great questions. So Melanie sent me the questions, but I had gotten on the interview with Trisha and it was too late. But after the interview, I realized that I had already asked Trisha many of those questions. So, you guys, please take a moment to share this video. If you're just joining me now, share this with your friends. And I'll just repeat very quickly. So today we're going to be, I'm going to ask you guys to share those questions that you have for my upcoming guest, Amy Christoffers, who is the design director of Berroco Yarn. You can ask anything you want. Ask about what it takes to design a collection, what it takes to design yarn, how do they come up with the colors, how do they come up with the color stories. Anything goes, anything goes. And these are the questions that I will ask Amy when I have my podcast interview with her in a few weeks. So I wanted to kind of get you guys to be thinking about this stuff now, because this is the kind of stuff that I need to, just this really good stuff from you guys to be asking these guests. So for those of you just joining the broadcast, again, please share, take a moment and share. And then say hello and say hi in the comments. I'm doing things a little bit differently today. I decided that I would broadcast the traditional way on Facebook. As you can see, I have no fancy microphone. I'm wearing my lapel mic this time, so I'm a little bit more free form. And I'm always figuring out some really fun new ways to position my phone, because I'm looking at my phone right now, but I have it on a boom arm. They call it a boom arm in the podcasting world. And I can move you guys around all over the place if I felt like it. It's really cool. I love it. So I can see that, let's see, who do we have in the room now? We've got Linda and Bev and Virginia, Elaine. And so Virginia says, coming up, question mark. Do you mean the guest is Amy? So Amy Christoffers, who is the design director, she's with Berroco. And next Wednesday, I'm going live with Trisha Malcolm. I was going to keep that under wraps and just until the day it goes live, but whatever. So, because I just had my interview with Trisha yesterday. So she's going to be going live. Her episode is going live next week, next Wednesday. So hi, Daphne. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you from Spokane. All right. So let's see. Elaine says, hi, I'll popping in before I run to class. I'm interested in timing. What does she look at 9 to 12 months out to determine upcoming trends? That's a great question, Elaine. And that's definitely going to be filed. I'm going to have a nice big copy and paste right out of this video, all of these comments that you guys throw in here, and I'm going to just read them off to Amy. And that's a really good question. I know that yarn companies are a little bit different than magazines, but my guess is that there's lots of similar crossover. And in my episode with Trisha, same questions. I asked her about how Vogue knitting really keeps the finger on the trends. and some really, really cool stuff that Trisha shared. So you guys don't want to miss that episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you guys, let me ask, for those of you that popped in, was it easy enough for you guys to find this? Because I did things a little bit different. I did not make an announcement on the newsletter, because you know what, if you are on my newsletter list, and I'll share some information here if you guys wanted to learn how to sign up for updates, because I haven't done that in a while. I haven't really mentioned that lately. I did not put an event through the tool that I usually use, which is called Be Live TV, which is where a lot of you guys just see the get reminder, and then you just know to go because you'll get a reminder. Well, this time I placed an event on the Power Purls page, and I shared this on the Power Purls page and also in the community, the free community. So was it easy, I guess, to simplify? Did you guys know to pop on here now, or did you see something pop up in your feed? Just because I want to make this a little bit easier for everyone to find the video, because it's harder, more and more. It's just getting harder because Facebook does not send out notifications. So I'm trying to get a little bit creative. So I'm curious if it was easy for you guys to find this. So Virginia says, sorry, I asked if she had any tips about trends coming up. Yes, so I will definitely be asking Amy that for sure, Virginia. Hi, Lynn, how are you? Okay, so it looks like we've got a nice little group here today. So maybe, because I announced it a little bit differently, hopefully you guys watching the replay, you guys are getting a lot of, thinking of ideas, and then just you can throw those in the comments, because after I go live, I'm still going to be coming back multiple times to this post and grabbing any questions that you guys want to ask me to ask Amy. I will not be interviewing her, like we won't be sitting behind the mic together until October 12th. So that's a little ways away, but I thought it would be great to ask you now so you have time. And so I might ask you again, because maybe it's going to take time for you to think about what it is that you'd like me to be asking. Okay? So for any of you guys just joining now, my name is Gott Warner. I'm the host of Power Purls podcast, designer, business coach, and your ultimate cheerleader on your yarn crafting path. You guys can catch me here every week right here on the Power Purls Facebook page. And I go live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes that might change a little bit. So here's something that I'd like to start with, and that is to ask you a question. So I started this last week. I do ask questions, but I want to keep it a little bit more, just across the board, a standard way of jumping right into a question as soon as we start. So here it is, and it's kind of a loaded question. It might seem random, but not so random. This was one of the most popular questions that I asked when I used to do this feature on Creative Knitting, the Creative Knitting Facebook page, called The Editor Wants to Know. And this, by far, was the number one question, or the number one responded to question. And that is, and let's see if you know what it is when I ask you. And it is, are you a picker or a thrower? Okay, so let's think about that for a few minutes, or maybe you don't need a few minutes. If you need a few minutes, then you probably don't know what it is. So I'll give you a few minutes to think about, a few seconds to think about it, and then I'll let you know. All right. So Linda says, hello from Texas. Carrie, your shirt reminds us that Christmas is not far away if we need to knit gifts. Oh, yes, because I'm wearing red. Well, red is my favorite color. I feel like red really is like, anyway, everyone looks good in red, not just me. I mean, I think I do anyway. Anyway, all right. So let's see if anybody else has any questions. So I'm going to pop back to another thing that I asked you just a minute ago. On finding the video, I had the Facebook Live pop up, so no problems there. So that was cool. Bev says she's a thrower/flipper. I never heard that before. Flipper? That is so cool. So let's see. Lynn Lynn is a thrower but would like to learn to pick. Well, I'm a picker, by the way. Elaine is a thrower, taught myself to pick, but I'm not good at it. I had hoped it would help my ribbing be more consistent. Daphne says, I'm a thrower. I just learned Continental to do stranded color work. That's interesting, because I thought that the best way to do stranded color knitting is to be a thrower instead of a picker, because you need to use, well, maybe you need both, right? Because some people use both hands, you know, to effectively strand the yarn, strand it. So I always thought that being a thrower was really the way to actually be the most effective. Although I'm a picker, I knit, which is a continental. If you're a thrower, that means you're an English knitter. For any of you who don't know, but all you guys seem to know, so that's really cool. So Bev, both if using two colors, right? Virginia's a picker. Reba, one color in each hand. And Daphne, yes, that's correct. Thank you for clarifying that for sure. Daphne, I was using a tutorial that said to use both hands. Yes. So that totally makes sense, that would be why it would be good to do both. I don't do both. I don't use both hands. I just don't. And I think if you get to the, you all get to the same place, then you're probably in good shape. So yeah, so if anyone didn't understand what I just quickly said a moment ago, now, and since you guys, you're in here, all you guys seem to know the difference between being what a picker is and what a thrower is. So if you're a picker, that means that you are knitting continental, and so that's how I knit. And so what that means is you tension your yarn in your left hand. And if you're a thrower, that means that you actually, you throw the yarn with your right hand. And then there's also combination. So anyone out there, any of you guys combination knitters? Be kind of fun to just start the fun conversation here. See, I always know asking this question is going to engage a lot of conversation. So it's a fun question. And, I remember trying to count all of those, the responses when I was with creative knitting to see like how many people were throwers and pickers. And, honestly, I thought it was going to be that most people were throwers, but it was across the board. It was half and half. And I think it's how you're taught. I was taught to knit continental, and I've had debates with people that say, well, it's most people knit, they're most throwers and they prefer to, because it's easier and it's harder than to be a picker. And I disagree, because you learn how to knit the way you were shown how to knit. Whoever taught you how to knit, that's how they knit, that's how you're going to knit, right? So I can throw, but I prefer to pick, because if I throw, I got to think too hard, right? And I have to be really mindful of that. And at one point, it was recommended to me that I should always do my tutorials as a thrower. But I tried, and then I said, no, there's no difference. People still understand, because what's happening at that point on the needles, the way that the stitch is, happening, the technique that's being taught, that's really where the information is happening. So however you throw or you pick, I think that's secondary, if you want to ask me my opinion. So let's see. So Reba says picking is supposedly faster. Yeah, I think I've seen it both ways. I think, as far as the speed, I've seen pickers and throwers speedy on both levels. But I think personally that picking is quicker. But I don't know. I think it can go. It can be depending on how adept you are. So Virginia says, I was taught by a thrower, but I pick. I think it's because I was a crocheter first. Yeah, and that I've heard many times before, Virginia, where most pickers were crocheters first, and so it was definitely an easier transition for them. Well, that's cool, you guys. And again, I'm asking this question. If any other questions come up and you'd like to ask Amy, that would be awesome. You can ask questions like, what does it take to design a new collection? How do you follow the trends in knitting and in fashion? What are those resources? Where do you find inspiration? Color stories. How do you develop new yarn collections? Not just the patterns, because yarn companies have both the patterns, right? And the yarn, of course. And speaking of yarn, I wanted to just show you because Berroco sent me some more yarn. We have a challenge coming up in just a few weeks. Show you this yarn, and then I will share some of the changes, the new things that are happening in the Power Purls garden, as I like to say. Because some of you got my email this morning, and I'm rebranding to Gott Warner. So I think most of you know that the podcast and me are the same. So I figured that makes sense for most people. But anyway, so here's, so Nebula, you see the opposite name or the opposite of the yarn here because I am on my phone. So I have the camera, the selfie side of the phone, the selfie camera. But anyway, this is really where the action is, right? So this is a gorgeous, this is color 7530. Because they're all names, they have different names, like of the names of the zodiac. So if you go to Berroco.com, you'll be able to see the names. So this is the colorway that I'm using for a sample that I'm working on, and the challenge is going to be it's going to be short row shawls. So it's another shawl challenge. Officially, I'm just teasing it right now, but in a couple weeks, actually next week or the week after is going to be it's going to be in 2 weeks. Like, sign up, this is what you got to do, go get your yarn, all that good stuff. So here's another beautiful colorway. This is color 7508. I know the name of this one. Here's one. Here, let me show you this side. This one's kind of cool. This is Taurus. That's fitting, right? Isn't it? And then I know the name of this. This one's called Aquarius. Isn't that beautiful? And by the way, this is fingering weight. Here's a little sample. This is one of the samples I was working on a few weeks ago. I was thinking of doing an asymmetrical shawl, and this is the sample that I made. But I decided against it, and maybe you guys will say, no, we love asymmetrical. But because it's so out there, it's really so widespread, and I thought, even though I know, like, I am doing a crescent shawl for the challenge, but this is the colorway that I showed you before, this color 7530. So this is what it looks like in my swatch, but we're going to be doing a short row crescent shawl. So more on that later. Okay, so let's move on. I wanted to just share a little bit more about what's happening, what's happening with the Power Purls garden, or in the Power Purls garden. So today, like I said, you received an email from me, if you're on my newsletter list, just about some new directions. And I just wanted to go through some of those right now because, there are always new people popping in, right? So I know that we're one big happy bunch, and I forget sometimes that there are new people like Daphne. I know that you're fairly new to these videos, but I always forget. So I wanted to take an opportunity to, just to share some of these new directions with you. So it's all about the branding, like I just, I mentioned a few moments ago. So it's all now going to be under the umbrella of my name, because that's pretty easy. I'm always going to be Gott Warner, but I also do the podcast. I also have a coaching program. I also do the Stitchucation series of workshops. And I think this will keep the clarity and the cohesion to everything. So yeah, so it's much more than just the podcast. Then I also mentioned the coaching program. Now, over the past couple of months, this has been really exciting, and I've been talking about this with you guys. And I started coaching creatives, and I do have some free sessions that you can sign up for. You can either be a fairly new designer, but you know how to design. Okay, so you've dabbled in design, And now you want to put it together. What is that cake? How do you bake that cake? How do you put together a marketing plan? How do you get a website going? Like, how do you position yourself well in the fiber world? And that's something that I can show you with my 15 years of experience. Been doing this for a while. I think I kind of get it. So here I am. I'm willing to pay that forward. So, and that goes for veteran designers as well. And I've had conversations with my friends in the knitwear world who have been around. You know, they've been around for decades, but they're like, how do I adapt to this digital landscape? And I thought, you know what? You don't have to beat me over the head 3 times to for me to get it. So I thought, this is perfect. This is what people need. So if you wanted to, you can sign up if this sounds like you. Okay, if this sounds like you, for a free strategy session, 30 minutes to sit with me. So you can go to powerpurlspodcast.com/free strategy session. One word. Okay, so check that out. So that's something else I'm going to be talking about more and more, and paying forward advice and giving you, free tips along the way if you want to be part of this update newsletter list. Also, the Stitchucation community. Now, you guys, if you've been around, you know that I started the community. It's a free Facebook group, okay? And it's called Stitchucation Community. And that's where I started doing these challenges, the Stitchucation challenges, which I started in January of this year. Wow. It's already almost October, is it? Wait, yeah, it's mid-September. It feels like it's going to be October before you know it. So that's something that you guys you can join this group and talk to like-minded knitters. You can post your own questions, post, resources. That's where I want the conversations to really start to happen. And the thing that's great about groups that you can't do on pages like this, I'd like to move these conversations to the group, right? To the group, because then here's the cool thing. And I don't know if you guys know this, but when it comes to Facebook groups, but the difference between groups and pages is that if you are watching live videos and I decide that I'm going to go live in our group, that's when you get a notification. You'll get a notification in the group, but you will not get a notification about a page going live. So that's my grand plan, and it's a free community. So if you want to join, it's Stitchucation Community at Stitchucation Community at groups.facebook.com. Now, you can also search in the groups. Just type in Stitchucation in the search, and you'll find it. So Stitchucation, spelled just like it sounds, one word. So check that out, and then that's another new thing, not new thing, but new thing that I really want to get out there, because for a while this group was really dormant because of the fact that it was designed for the challenges, and then we were quiet. But I've been thinking, why be quiet? This is where we can have conversations and just keep it going and keep it going, because that's where you guys can post exciting things and create your own conversations, something you really can't do on a page. So next is the Patreon community. Okay, so I'm mentioning this right after Stitchucation, because Stitchucation community is a free Facebook group. Then we have the Patreon community. Now, Patreon, you might be thinking, if you've never heard of this before, what is Patreon? Well, if you go to patreon.com, you'll see what this is all about. Patreon.com/Power Purls podcast is where, the Power Purls garden lives, so to speak. But it's basically how you can become a member of the podcast, like a patron of the arts, but you can join and essentially support the podcast and support my videos and all of these bits of free content that I create for you guys, so you can support the podcast there. And yeah, so that's the difference. So it's a paid versus the free group. So you can always check that out and just kind of see what's happening over there. And then let's see what's going on. Okay, events. I want to talk about events now. What's coming up? So we have a new shawls challenge. I mentioned that's coming up in October. So the official date is not official, but it's like mid-October. And I'm going to start talking about that in a couple of weeks. So not to worry. Again, we're going to be making, you're going to be getting a free pattern, free shawl. It's made with this yarn, Nebula from Berroco. Beautiful colorways, fingering weight. More details to come, sign up pages and all that stuff. And then next week, Tricia Malcolm, editorial director and vice president of Soho Publishing and Vogue Knitting, will be on the podcast with a great conversation. And so she's going to talk about, how, the 35th anniversary of Vogue Knitting, which is on the newsstands now, and also how she's been able to keep it going all these years and keep her finger on the pulse of all the trends. So that's going to be next week, Wednesday, September 20th is when that episode goes live on Power Purls podcast. So, you guys, I think that I covered everything here. So if you guys want to just keep, just stay in the loop, why don't you just check it out? Check out the newsletter or check out the updates. You can sign up. So if you go to karagottwarner.com/updates, then you can sign up and get all this juicy stuff. And it's a weekly update. So now I'm going from monthly, and I will admit, not as consistent as I'd like to be, but now definitely weekly, and that's going to happen. So check it out at karagottwarner.com/updates. So let me just jump back in here to see if any of you guys had any other questions or thoughts, ideas. Let's see. All right, well, you guys, this was fun. It was like a nice little group today. And if you have any more questions, any questions that come to mind, I should say, for Amy Christoffers, who's going to be my guest on the podcast in a couple weeks, please just pop them below in the comments. I would absolutely love to hear from you so I can read those questions to Amy on air. And I'm happy to mention your name when I do it. So please go ahead and do that. And with that, I will say thanks for joining me. And I'll see you next week. All right. Have a good one.